Hello and welcome to Wehry Dads. I'm your host, Pete Wehry, with my co-host,
Dad. Keurig coffee makers have saved my life. So, folks, whenever you are in a discussion with your spouse, which in my case happens to be lovely Lisa, and she says, I don't think we want to do the Keurig. We don't want it. Those pods are expensive. Men, just a very important safety tip, be kind, be loving, but at some point you got to be firm and just say to her, babe, we're spending more money letting those 3 cups turn into motor oil when you can have a fresh, like Dunkin' Donut or the other donut one we have, which is not really a good sponsor vote there for that other coffee. But to have
Donut House.
Yes. But it's a fresh cup of Java. And when you have those, whether it be the first one in the morning or for that afternoon delight, folks, Keurig is the answer. They'll never sponsor us, but I love it. We're talking
Thank
morning
you for
routines.
that.
Yeah, we're talking morning routines. One of the things I would say to you, first thing in the morning, I do a couple of things, drink a glass of water, but it's all in preparation to have the Keurig coffee. That 1 cup.
So, I mean, there's just some basic scientific stuff that we know, and I would just encourage you to do it. So,
To have a
in
Keurig?
terms of, well, eating and drinking stuff that will aid your digestive system,
Ooh.
which coffee will do that.
Bada boom, bada bing.
But starting with a glass of water first is generally accepted as best practice. Getting some natural light will, help you wake up. And they actually talk about that will help you sleep better at night. And any kind of physical exercise, especially something rigorous, is great. But even if it's just a walk, just to get up and get moving. And you talked about combining that with prayer, if you want to combine that with listening to a podcast, meditation. And that's like sometimes I just go for a walk and I just think. And that's, for me, my poor wife, if things have been just way too busy at home, I will not be able to sleep and I will pace the kitchen for like 2 hours just thinking. If the boys have been especially crazy that day, I have a business problem to solve. That's what I do. And so instead, finding time to do that in the morning, probably more useful. But so water, natural light.
So we're talking about, what are we helping with everybody today? We're talking with
health,
morning routine. We're talking about health, the
physical.
physical. So PJ I started with having, it all began with Keurig, but you have a cup of coffee. PJ's talking about natural light and then talking about the water, all those things. And almost, I don't want to say a brisk, but especially if it's a cool morning, it's like there's some people take cold showers, wake up in the morning. Not me.
I've done that and it was useful, and it is actually something, especially in Florida, it's actually not so bad. I actually started to do it here, and our water doesn't get cold enough. So, anyways, but that's, I have found it to be useful, but that is an acquired taste. I will admit it.
So what areas do you want to really address here as we talk about the physical, though?
As they talk about, I think one of the ways our culture does us a great disservice. I saw a guy who he showed all the different breakfasts around the world, and the classic American breakfast is it's pretty much just dessert. Like, you look at a lot of that food, and it's just not a great way to start. And there's a lot of things that are left off the table because we just think we're like, oh, these are breakfast foods. Like Costa Rica, there's a place where they live 90 plus years. That's the average life. Rice and beans for the morning. And at first it's weird, right? To me, it was weird to eat that. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, you know what I found? I felt great. And so one of the things that's interesting about, and this isn't to say you have to eat beans in the morning, but beans provide protein that lasts longer than meat in terms of its energy output. And because it breaks down slower.
We just lost 19 viewers thinking, I've got to eat beans instead of bacon. Come on. Come on.
The
Maybe you
biggest
could
thing-
get about 4 or 5 beans and wrap it in bacon.
So I mean, that'd be good too.
Digressed.
No, the point isn't that you have to have beans. The point is open up your mind to something that's simple. Because I've created great breakfasts, but then I found my whole routine was about making the breakfast. That's not great either. You want to find something simple and healthy. And so looking at other cultures that I think in a lot of ways have cracked codes that, what's the classic American thing to do if you want a quick and easy breakfast? I found myself donuts. I'm just like, it can't be good for
So
you.
Sunday mornings for a long, long time, to help your mom not have to worry about it when I was a youth pastor, we would get that Entenmann's
Yes.
cherry cheese
Oh, I remember.
Danish.
Yeah.
You know what?
It's
That's
just dessert. Yes.
That was so, I'm a bad parent. But it's interesting because you know what mom and I do? Oatmeal, blueberries,
Great one.
and a little bit of blueberry hemp. It almost sounds like a drug. Which, hey, whatever. But
And then you feel great the rest of the day.
the morning food is important.
Yeah.
Before we we just did hit food, but one of the other things is I want to go back to the rest. Your morning starts off by what you did the night before.
Right.
Getting
Always
7 to 8 hours rest. Some people, I don't need it. And by the way, folks, for a long time, anybody who knew me, I was 6.5 hours, and sometimes I still struggle with this. But then Sunday afternoon, gone. I would go hard all the time. But I think if you can get 7 hours of rest, and PJ mentioned it, I think I've done enough. I mentioned on the last podcast, Pocket, they had a whole thing about sleeping, darker room, keep the room cool.
Yep.
You have other thoughts on that? Because I could tell you were.
Well, I think with all of these things, I mentioned the beans. That's been really useful for me, right? And everyone's like, that's silly, whatever. You're talking about the sleep. The point is, don't be afraid to experiment and listen to your body. And that's become really important for me because I've found things that work for me and things that don't work for me. So I have to get sleep. I wanted to be one of those guys. And what I found is I got wound up and I couldn't concentrate during the day. Like it really messed with me if I didn't get enough sleep. I have friends who do 4 hours, all-nighters, and they pay for that later, but it doesn't affect them the same way. And so when you're talking about doing the 6 hours and then you crashed on Sunday afternoon, that might work for some people. Find, as always, find what works for you. So if you're like, you want a breakfast that you look forward to, that gets your day exciting. That's where I'm like, experiment with that. Find something that makes you feel good and that you can be happy seeing in the morning and doesn't take a lot of time. That's what matters.
Okay. So after food and rest, I think, everyone knows this is coming, but it's really important. Some type of exercise. Sure. So folks, I have 2 bad wheels, aka my knees.
Yep.
One right now probably needs a meniscus. The other one has had 2. And the doctor I looked at him, like, what can we do here? He goes, you ain't got nothing left in there. So what I'll do is I'll walk. I can elliptical. And I think for me, it's harder, bike. But you got to do something. And one of the things that I am adding in, because I'll walk 45 minutes to an hour. And as we talked at a previous podcast, I'll combine that with a prayer and scripture reading. But I do know I need to add 20 to 30 minutes of cardiovascular 3 times a week. And that's why I'm going to the elliptical. Okay. And then the other one is light lifting or using your own body for exercise. Now,
but the most important thing, and I think this is because I struggle with this and I don't exercise as much as you do, is the difference. It's like it's way harder to get from 80% efficiency to 90% efficiency than it is from 20 to 80. And if that doesn't make total sense, let me put it this way.
No, it does.
The health benefits between taking a walk each morning and not doing anything and doing a full workout, being purely sedentary is a huge issue. So more important than even getting this perfect thing, again, experiment, get slowly better at it, but do something that at least you do it. Like, do something that you can get up in the morning and execute on. And so, like, with me, with the boys, and with all the other stuff I'm trying to get doing, like, golly, the verbiage is killing me. But getting up and just going for a walk is at least start there.
Good. So let me just do this. I want to say this. This is terrible, but it's 9:00 on a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in. There's an old man sitting next to me making love to his tonic and gin. Do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah, this is the Piano Man.
Very good. Well, it's not Saturday, but it is Wednesday night. PJ and I are doing our last podcast, probably for the week. We've done this, our 4th. We're loving life. It's already 7 p.m. We just got done eating dinner with our wives. When we get done, we're going to go out for a 15 to 20-minute walk. I want to make sure I get 15,000 steps. Folks, honestly, I just clicked my watch. I am at 13,000. It's not just to get the 15. We just got done eating.
Well, and there's what motivates you too? Like the 15,000, like marking it down.
Oh, yeah.
Having specific goals.
Got to have a goal.
Yep.
But the other thing that's really good about it is after you eat, don't flop down on the lazy boy, because the next thing you know, you're having prayer with Pastor Pillow and Brother Sheets. You will fall asleep if you're especially, I'm 60, but even if you're an adult and you've been working all day, and what do people do? Most people do after dinner every night.
They flop down and watch TV for 3 hours.
And
look at their phone too.
And sedentary. Well, okay, folks, I don't know how much this is going to help, but PJ came in the other day and he said, "Dad, do you see yourself?" So I had a football game
that was ridiculous.
And I had on my iPad a basketball game. Both of those people, well, the football game I cared about, the basketball game is a friend, so I want to pay attention to it. And on the phone, I was texting somebody or something.
And you had your laptop up.
Oh, and I was doing work. Folks, I'm a technological wizard. No. But what I know we just might have lost you on that, but to understand, you can get so caught up and just sit. Guys, I love you, but if all you do on Saturday is sit and watch football, there's going to be some sedentary issues, okay? And
drink beer, especially. You add that onto it?
You said it. I didn't.
It is a common practice, and it's really killer.
All right.
You know?
So finishing up, helping you understand, we could talk about rituals, and when we have, there is a need for a spiritual. There's a craving for mental growth. Part of the reason PJ, what he mentioned with the mental was also some journaling, writing. He's enhancing a skill. That's a good thing to do. So you've got your spiritual, your mental, enhancing a skill in the morning. And then the last one is, folks, eating right, making sure you're getting your rest, and exercise, your physical. These should be cores of your morning ritual. And we talked about it, but man, I start usually around 6 and I have a flexible schedule. So I don't try to set any meetings before 10. By that time, those 4 hours of the day, that big chunk, and for some of you'll say, well, I don't have that time. Well, part of my job is to be mentally sharp and to have some leadership answers. And when I was coaching, I read a basketball book every month. I read a leadership book every month. Now I'm not reading the basketball book, but I will stay educated. Oh, by also my job, saying mentally, some of you say, well, that's not work. It is for me. I'll read I want to say NCAAM. You wouldn't know what that is. Some of you might, but I read the men's basketball page on ESPN. What is going on?
Right.
Because I will need to have some responses. So I hope that this has been a help to you as we've talked about routines, that you see the importance of taking care of.
Set some goals, be willing to adjust them, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. But most important, find something that works for you.
And work them spiritually, mentally, and physically. Great, PJ. Thank you, and I love you.
Love you.
See you.